Hello, this is Louise Smart, and a very warm welcome everyone to this introductory audio to my Inner Wealth Self-Love series. And just so that you know, wherever you've actually found this audio, you'll find that there's a connecting link to be able to purchase the rest of the series, whether that's in your email or message or a Facebook post. The purchase link will be close by. I think it's important that you know it's been a very conscious choice to make this an audio series rather than video, because audios are infinitely better at getting you to focus inward on you and not on me and me moving around or what I look like or what I'm wearing. I created this series because I know that there are so many people out there who really have a hard time loving themselves. Many people are really good at loving, taking care of and nurturing others, whether that's their relations, significant partner, spouses, co-workers, family, children and friends, and animals. They're really good at giving to others. But there's no problem in this, but there is a problem when this giving comes at the expense of our own health and well-being and our sense of equilibrium, or our sense of entitlement to receiving from others, from life, to being taken care of. But if we really don't pay attention to our own needs, especially the need for very gentle self-nurturing, what happens is there's a building of an energetic imbalance in our energy systems. So this shows up emotionally as frustration, anger, and resentment. And when we don't pay attention to the cues, our emotional cues that tell us that something's off, that signalling just transfers itself to the physical body just to get our attention, because when the body plays up, it's much harder to ignore. And what happens with the physical body is that starts to show symptoms of fatigue and illness. So when we don't pay attention to how we really feel, it's going to show up sooner or later in the physical body. So honouring how we feel and paying attention to that and redressing the balance is incredibly important if we want to come to life and meet life with wholeness, so that we're not needy. Because when we're needy and trying to get the nurturing and the love and the care or the attention from someone or something outside of us, because we haven't taken the time to nourish ourselves completely, and when we overgive to others in order to feel worthy, to feel valuable, when we come to life with that needy energy, which often shows up as approval seeking, it backfires. So right off the bat, I'm going to clarify what I mean by self-love to help you get the benefits you want and need from self-love with some very useful self-knowledge. And it's two things. Generally, what most people understand it to be is self-care. That is choosing for ourselves rather than against ourselves, choosing nourishing, supportive environments, people as friends, relationships, work and careers, and generally being willing to support and nourish ourselves emotionally, step by step, in all the choices that we make. And good self-care, of course, includes a very wholesome approach to the body in terms of what we put in it, the food that we take in, and how we exercise and look after our bodies. However, we tend to do all of this self-care with much more positive intention and enthusiasm when we can actually feel the security of the warmth and the flow of our own love inside of ourselves, inside of our bodies, because this is actually what makes us feel good. And when we feel good on the inside, we tend to choose for ourselves rather than against ourselves. Self-care becomes much less a sense of another thing on our to-do list and much more an automatic, choiceless choice. It just becomes easy to self-care when you really feel good on the inside. So self-love really is about generating this flow of inner loving warmth inside the body. And in my experience, there are so many people who are really numb and can't access the flow of that loving warmth inside themselves, which is why I've created these audios to really demonstrate and show people how to access, plug in, and really feel this. And there is massive practical benefit in knowing how to do this so that you really can access feeling good from the inside out at will. And self-love is also about taking steps to really care for ourselves in the actions and choices that we take in our lives, including the ability to be discerning and say no, and have really healthy, assertive boundaries about what is right and good for us, and the entitlement to say and express that, even if that means going against the status quo and standing up for ourselves with our own parents, with our lovers, spouses, with our children, friends, bosses. It means choosing with love for ourselves, whether people approve of us or not. And I call all of this combined inner wealth, because it really is a richness at the core of your being, where you feel satiated, where you feel whole, where you feel secure, where you can really feel the warmth of your own love and really know this love as your identity, filling your entire body. And at the same time, this is what helps you to make choices for yourself, because you already feel good. It's a natural lead on. And when you can genuinely feel the warmth of your own love flowing in the core of your being, and when you feel good about yourself on the inside and you make healthy, wholesome choices for yourself, this is when you can actually enjoy your outer world. So whatever you've created in your outer world in terms of wealth, until you feel good on the inside, you're never really going to be able to enjoy that fully. There'll always be this constant, albeit subtle, sense of nagging that there's something else to be had. And it's true, there is. It's called love. Love within, inner wealth. And whenever we're experiencing any kind of lack in our outer world of material circumstances, and I don't mean just money, I mean anything that we feel that we lack on the outside, that sense of lack is generated by an internal sense of lack. So we need to give to ourselves to fill that gap and to make these changes, to feel this lovely warmth inside of us. We've got to go deep within. And this is what I'm going to help you do with these audios, is to navigate inside yourselves and access this warmth and love, this feel-good factor that is generated by you and through you. And it's like a sort of plug-in to a universal source of loving energy. And then this is what gives you the confidence to take massive steps in life, to involve yourself in wholesome, healthy relationships. You're just going to naturally choose positive, healthy life choices for yourself. So of course we're all very different, and we all come to this realization that we need to do something about ourselves from the inside out for very varied reasons. But I will share with you how I came to start on this journey myself. And I know a lot of you, especially the women listening to this, that will really resonate with this. So I'm not excluding men, but I just know there'll be a lot of women out there also resonating, go, yeah, that's me. So my calling card came when a relationship came to a very painful end. I went to see my therapist, who was actually also my Tai Chi teacher, and even though she was energetically sensitive and a lovely woman, what she said to me at one level really resonated, and that is, she said, Louise, you've got to love yourself, you've got to nurture yourself. But I really didn't know what she meant by that. I didn't know how to do anything about that. For starters, I was completely numb to the warmth of my own love. I couldn't feel it. And I wasn't too good at self-care either. So whilst I knew at one level this was true, everything that she was saying to me and telling me to do, but actually I just was at a loss as to how to go about doing anything about it and healing myself. And my therapist gave me some books to read and some pointers, but actually it really didn't touch the sides, for want of a better word. It just didn't penetrate at any core level of my being. So basically, at the end of each session and beyond the sessions, I went home, I cried, I was in pain, and I carried on grieving and then sort of stuffed it away, only to resume similar relationships with the same kind of patterning where I didn't feel loved and appreciated, and yet I would cling on. I was quite resilient, really. I used to put up with an awful lot of shoddy behaviour, which of course eventually caught up with me and ate away at me. In hindsight, now that I've done this sort of deep dive inner journey into self-love, I realised that what I was looking for in my relationships was the kind of love and nurturing that I hadn't had as a child. And I'm not ashamed to say it, I was really needy. Now, I was pretty good at hiding that. I could really mask that because I could come across as someone who was really independent and could think for themselves and act for themselves. But that was at the surface level, just a defence. But underneath, I was very vulnerable, like jelly. Now, the thing about energy, physical, mental, or emotional, or spiritual, is that it doesn't lie, it leaks out. So however much I was masquerading as someone who was independent and self-sufficient, energetically, what was bleeding out of my energy system was saying an entirely different thing. And this is what my partners were picking up on, my neediness, which is a big old repellent. And what was even more painful was the fact that I was trying to deal with trauma, but I didn't realise that I was traumatised by my abuse in childhood, because also that had been stuffed down and denied, which is a very common survival mechanism for surviving abuse. So basically, trauma in the background was constantly creating stress, anxiety, panic and fear, and unspeakable suffering with insomnia, which just added to my insecurity and my neediness. Basically, without meaning to, I'd abandoned myself and rejected myself. And I had very little real self-worth. I had done what we all do, and that is establish my worth based on the way that I'd been treated as a child growing up. So it doesn't matter who we are, this is how we all evolve. We develop our sense of love for ourselves from what's been dished out to us. It's the blueprint, which is our faulty conditioning, and this is what needs healing and transforming. And one of the first things that we have to confront is actually any idea that we're being self-indulgent when we do this self-love work, and when we have to revisit any parts of ourselves where there's been the origin of lovelessness, whether that's been in our childhood, or if we have actually had great upbringings, then something may have happened. We may have got into a relationship or a work situation where we haven't been valued. And this is like an imprint that is like a bruise. And until we resolve and heal that, we're always coming from a place of woundedness. And we need to resolve that to feel whole. So eventually I arrived at a pivotal point where I knew deep down at a primal level that if I didn't sort this out, my life was just not going to improve. I was just going to be recycling pain, misery and frustration and blaming everyone else. And I've shared all this with you because I know I'm not the only one. I work with a great many clients across the globe who come to me with the exact same issue of really just not loving themselves and keeping on attracting the same situation in their personal and professional relationships where they're not treasured, they're not valued, and they don't feel loved. They find themselves on an endless treadmill of trying to get approval, and they are understandably really unhappy. And this lack of self-love doesn't just apply to our relationships. It affects every single area of our lives, because fundamentally, if we don't love ourselves, we don't feel worthy of anything good. We just actually have an incapacity to receive or to hold on to good things. there's a sort of self-sabotaging pattern where there's a reaching for goodness and love and success and happiness in whatever way we define that, and yet at the same time there's a pushing away of the good things we already have in our grasp and a pushing away of the very things that we want, because deep down there is a sense of unworthiness, a lack of self-entitlement, and most people would recognise it as a pattern of self-sabotage. And in recognition of this, I have taught myself, and now teach others, to go within and nurture those parts on the inside that are shut down, frightened, vulnerable, and feeling exposed, unworthy, judged, not good enough, or fundamentally unlovable. And these are what I call blocks to love. They're where we are frozen, for want of a better word. If you think of an iceberg and the body of water being the love that can flow through us. And flow is the operative word here, because it's not a static state, but the frozen aspects of us where we have denied ourselves love and feel unworthy and unlovable, where that energy is held in the body, there's a stuckness. And so the work that I do with you in these audios is all about getting in touch with and meeting these parts of us that are frozen and contracted, and the parts of us that are wounded and bruised by the lovelessness that's been dished out to us from others, and dissolving them and melting them so that love can flow through us, so that we actually really deeply feel through the body, the entire body, the flow and the warmth of our own love. And it's by being in touch with and by being able to feel the flow of our own love inside of us in a way that feels like having sunshine warming us and comforting us from the inside out, that we're able to feel secure, that we're able to feel intrinsically worthy, instead of trying to get approval and love and security from someone or something or some kind of situation outside of us in order to feel good about ourselves. So by starting to allow ourselves to feel good about ourselves by what we give to ourselves, by generating our own flow of love within, which a lot of people need real practical help with, because they can't actually feel that love. They are numb. So there is no sort of sense of warmth inside them, and they need help to start that and to flow that. So with this flow of love and good self-care, we lessen our neediness, and we're able to have relationships that are coming from wholeness as opposed to codependency, needing someone else to fill us up with love. Why would we need to choose someone else to give us love as if they've got it and we don't? We've all got love. We've all got access to love inside of us. We just need to melt and release the blocks to feeling that and knowing that. And just to help illustrate what a block really is, when you think about when you burn yourself or you put your hand in freezing cold water, actually the body contracts, and it contracts in defendedness against the vulnerability that's underneath it. So similarly, emotionally, when we feel vulnerable and we've got fear of rejection, abandonment, disapproval, criticism, or any kind of separation from love, we contract our energy as a form of defensive protection. And this usually happens involuntarily at the level of the unconscious. And that is what blocks the flow of our own love through our body. So it's our own defensiveness, our fear, that actually contracts the body and blocks the flow of love. So when I started on this self-love journey, I really had my work cut out for me. Because at the time I was a therapist, and I now do energy coaching and energy clearing, and I paint, but I was a therapist. And in order to stay in alignment with my own integrity, I make it a rule that I never do anything with my clients that I haven't tried and tested and really believe in myself. So I'm not a textbook anything in terms of counselling or energy healing or energy work. And I often get asked, do I use the emotional freedom technique, the tapping technique? And the answer is no, I don't use that. I really work from the basis of, does it work for me? And how can I teach this so that I can help other people? And what I could see from working at the stress management unit at London Bridge Hospital and also at my clinic in Harley Street, and from my years of working at Greyshot Spa, where I would lecture and consult in emotional detox and energy clearing, was that everyone that was coming to see me, whilst they were presenting stress symptoms and emotional discomfort in their personal and professional lives, underpinning this it was very obvious, a deep lovelessness towards themselves. Despite their outer wealth or their professional success, they had become people who just didn't like themselves and didn't love themselves, couldn't give to themselves, couldn't nurture themselves. And this was creating all sorts of problems in their work and their professional lives because of the frustration of constantly feeling like needs weren't being met. Needs for security, love and approval were not being met. And in order to anaesthetize the pain of that, they were turning to stimulants, comfort food, alcohol, cigarettes, drugs, all kinds of addictive behaviours in order to just shut down on feeling deeply uncomfortable on the inside. It's perfectly understandable. And of course, all of these comfort-seeking behaviours, the attempts to anaesthetise internal discomfort and emotional pain, can end up in addictions. And we all know the trajectory of that and how devastating that can be on people's lives. So whilst this is not an addiction program, you can see that self-love is very much a part of recovery. What I'm about to talk about next is going to really help you in terms of practical knowledge that will serve you in self-awareness, because without self-awareness you really can't make the changes that you need to make. So I now want to introduce you to two fundamental drivers in our life that we've all been conditioned into, that are very much pivotal to the way that we connect with ourselves and the way that we feel about ourselves and the way that we're actually separated from the love that we truly are at our core. So the first of these fundamental driving forces is the desire for unconditional love and approval just for who we are at our core, just for being alive. We seek that, and we also seek, this is the second driver, to be unconditionally loved and approved of for everything that we do, good or bad. So it's the unconditional element that is completely lacking in our upbringing for so many of us and in our societal conditioning. Because as children, we are brought up to believe that we're worthy of love when we behave in a certain way according to our parents' or our caregivers' desires, needs and instructions. In other words, we have to earn the right to be loved as opposed to being loved just for who we are. So the fact that it's not unconditional creates this yearning inside of us, and we have to be the first ones to fill up that gap. It is not the job of our lovers, partners, spouses, colleagues, co-workers, bosses, children. It's no one else's job, it's our job. And that's why it's called self-love. And this is how we parent ourselves, with nurturing self-love that is unconditional. And when we're able to unconditionally love and support ourselves every step of the way with every choice that we take and every action that we take, then actually what we do is we fulfill what we really want. And by fulfilling it for ourselves, what we do, almost, it's like plugging into the circuitry of universal love, the source of all love. Because we all, like fish in water, because fish are surrounded by everything that they need, it nourishes and supports them and holds them. We're unaware that actually we're being surrounded by love, the water of love, if you like, all the time. We just can't feel it. So the initiating step to plug into that is, first of all, we take the action to unconditionally love and approve of ourselves for who we are. And that's what generates that core flowing love inside of us, that lovely feeling of warmth. And we have to unconditionally love and approve of ourselves every step of the day, no matter what, good, bad, right or wrong. And this is how we'll just fill ourselves with the sense of security, warmth, confidence, and everything that we're seeking outside of ourselves is built from the inside out. And this is real strength, and this is real power. And it's not negating that we all desire and require loving relationships, loving work environments, peaceful, loving family homes. But what this really means is that the inner work of self-love we do for ourselves so that we're whole, so we're not trying to be propped up by someone else or any circumstance outside of ourselves. On the contrary, it means that we meet life from wholeness. And this is exactly how life returns the favour and meets us with wholeness in every way. Relationships, work, money, every aspect of our lives. So to meet life with wholeness, we have to go beyond concept. We can't just say nice sounding words to ourselves about ourselves, what people sometimes call affirmations or mindset work. That won't work to anchor love into the core of your being in the way that I'm referring to. Because most affirmations and mindset work is not energetically powerful enough to penetrate all levels of your being, right down to the cellular level. You've got to be very clear in order for an affirmation or mindset work to be effective quickly. It usually just doesn't happen, or the results are very temporary, because people have too much static and too much energetic blocking going on. Actually, what we need to do is enter into our physical, mental and emotional energy systems, get right inside of ourselves viscerally to where the blocks are held. The blocks where we are holding the conflict of lovelessness towards ourselves, where we've assumed that we're unworthy. It's where we're holding the judgments, the criticisms and the shame and the blame and all the guilt. It's where we feel rubbish and usually don't want to meet that and touch that and go to it. Usually we want to get away from that as fast as possible. But I'm going to teach you how to do this in a very gentle way, but very powerful way. And I'm going to be doing it with you. You are not alone doing this. And it's my specific intention with this series that it's the next best alternative to actually working with me in person, because I know not all of you are able to do that for whatever reason. So in these audios, you're going to learn how to really viscerally feel the flow of love, how to apply love to these parts of you that are shut off or frozen or shut down, that are blocking the overall sense of wellness and wholeness. So we're going to teach you that nurturing flow of love, and we're going to review and resolve and heal all the criticisms and judgments that you have about yourself, that you've taken on from others, and how you've not forgiven yourself, and all the assumptions that you've made about yourself and your worthiness. We are going to systematically transform all of those so that you have a sense of wholeness, a sense of unconditional worthiness and 100% lovability. You're going to be really loved up, and you're going to know at a very practical level how unconditional loving kindness and compassion for yourself and every aspect of yourself, everything that you've ever judged good, bad, right or wrong, can all be held and embraced within this loving flow of warmth inside you. And this is wholeness. This is the oneness that we seek. And it's this very wholeness within that can magnetize the wholeness that we seek in our relationships, in every aspect of our daily lives. We want love and wholeness, and an end to all compromise and putting up with less than we deserve. So Thank you so much for listening. I hope this has been helpful. Wherever you found this audio, you'll find that there is a link either in the post or in the drop-down detail box underneath the audio video recording of this. And from there, you'll just link straight through to purchase the rest of the audios. The copyright on this Inner Wealth Self-Love audio series belongs solely to Louise Smart. No forwarding or sharing without my prior consent in writing. This particular audio in this self-love series is an introductory audio and it's free, and I am giving you permission to forward and share as you wish. Thank you. Bye.